This is the men's conference.
You have your mind, right? And your mind determines how you think, right? So the things that you think will lead to emotions, and emotions will lead to actions. And from actions, we get results.
Hello and welcome. This is the men's conference and my name is Emmanuel. Society puts so much pressure on humans. A person with mental illness looks like you and me. Stressed people are no different from you and me. So this is a space where we all can have honest and real discussions about mental health, share experiences about wellness and well-being such that if we don't have solutions, at least we can share ideas on how to navigate this complicated life. Joining us for our very first episode is a father, a speaker, a broadcaster who's passionate about mental health, awareness issues, and also just opening up discussions about some of the most difficult topics that we keep on running away from, be it with friends or with our families. And his passion was inspired by personal experiences and a realization of the need to talk openly, as I've said, about mental health. This man is none other than Tony Friday, and he will help us navigate some of the few questions that we have for this particular episode. And the first question that we have to ask is, what do we mean when we talk about mental health?
Hi, my name is Tony Friday. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share my thoughts on mental health. I'm a speaker, I'm a broadcaster, and I'm a mental health ambassador by choice. It's something that I decided to do a number of years ago when I saw that there was such a need to educate the world on what mental health is, and also because there is nothing that we do that is not affected by our mental health. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I love these spaces where I can say my thoughts and educate people on what mental health is. So maybe let's start off with defining what mental health is. The way that I like to define mental health is the state of that which affects the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you act. So what I mean by that is you have your mind, right? And your mind determines how you think, right? So the things that you think will lead to emotions, and emotions will lead to actions, and from actions we get results. Results being the state of your physical being, and results being the state of your relationships with the people around you, whether it's your spouse, your kids, your workmates, society in general, and also the state of your money. Your money can be traced back to how you think, and also the state of your spiritual life. You are as close or far from God as you are healthy or unhealthy in your mind. So your mind affects the way you think, and the way you think produces emotions that lead to actions that give you results. So today I want to specifically talk about mental health awareness in general. Amongst our communities in this country, in Zimbabwe.
It's interesting that when Tony describes and makes it clear to us what exactly we are talking about when we talk about mental health, we find that one or two things are some of the things that we're experiencing on a daily basis. And if this is so, we want to know what the level of awareness in the community is in terms of issues to do with mental health.
We are only starting to wake up to the realities of not looking after our mental health now. It's only been in the last few years that, a couple of individuals, such as myself, and a couple of other organizations, started to make noise about mental health and why the fuss about mental health. Because for the longest time, we've been so domesticated to focus on the physical. That's why you will find a clinic, a hospital, a doctor at every other corner, but it's not the same with mental health. And that is testimony to the fact that we haven't started paying attention to mental health to the degree that we should. But that is not the problem. It's a challenge that we ought to tackle, and that is why me and a lot of other ambassadors for mental health are starting to, starting to do the things that we do to make sure that we wake up to the fact that mental health is a real thing, and it is affecting our day-to-day lives, the way we do lives, on a minute-to-minute, hour by hour, week by week, month-to-month, year by year. So that is why we are having this conversation.
Izaziso zanamhlanje sifundeka kanje uyacelwa ukuthi ukhanyise
This is the men's conference.
The community plays an important part in how it influences our decisions and how we carry ourselves around, or what next step we want to take in life. And as we have talked about the level of awareness in the community, we want to look at how sometimes we dismiss a member of the family or a relative as one with issues, and how we just look at them and say, you know what, this one has his own world that they live in. And we want to find out from Tony what some of the most prominent aspects are of stigma against men with mental health issues.
It's amazing how we have labeled people with mental health issues, especially amongst men. As a man, if you are having a mental health issue, there's a lot of challenges that you're bound to face, especially if you're on this side of the world where society has told men that they should have it all together all the time. And that is, it's not okay to show emotion, because emotion equals weakness in society's eyes. And as a man, if you display any kind of emotion, good or bad, you are labeled as weak, and weakness is equated to women. You've heard people say things like, stop being such a woman, when you are trying to express something that you're going through. And it sort of inhibits a lot of men from seeking the kind of help that they should seek. Society being you and me, by the way, because sometimes when we say society, we leave it up to, some animal which we can't relate to. But society is you and me. You and me have told each other over time that it's not okay for men to talk about their issues. It's not okay for men to open up, to be vulnerable, and to seek help, to even admit that they are not okay. Yeah. And because of this, we see it is no surprise that suicide is highest amongst men and not amongst women. Women have higher rates when it comes to attempted suicides, but not when it comes to actually committing suicide. And the major reason for that is because men do not have spaces to talk about issues, whether it's depression, whether it's financial pressure, whether it's stress, whatever it may be. Men do not have spaces where they can go to and talk about these things. These spaces that are there, the few spaces that are there, men are afraid to go out and, seek the kind of help that they should, because of this kind of stigma that is attached to men seeking help. I'll give you a couple of examples. A number of years ago, I went through a divorce, right? This is probably 10 years ago. And divorce happens to all people, men and women, right? But what I went through after divorce is something that almost took my own life, because at this point, I couldn't function as a human being because I wasn't mentally okay and emotionally okay. But I still had a job to go to. I still had, the normal responsibilities that I was expected to execute with no excuses. But how do you play soccer with a broken leg? You can't, right? But we expect the very same thing from men, to go about looking after their families and still go about their normal duties, and yet they are not mentally and emotionally okay. It's impossible. So because of the experience that I went through, I almost took my own life almost 3 times. But this is something that I am glad that I went through, because it has led me to the work that I am doing now. If it wasn't for that experience, I doubt I would be making as much noise about mental health as I am now. So I was saying all of that to say this. There's a lot of stigma that we need to fight together as society, that we have attached to mental health amongst men. And if we remove those stigmas, it would be easier for men to come through and talk about their issues. I can go back to a lot of stories, experiences that I've been through as a man, that I can safely tell you that I wouldn't have had to go through if it wasn't for the stigma that is attached to men going out and seeking help. And I'm glad that I am starting to deal with some of those stigmas and tackling them head on and replacing them with the truth. And the truth is, it's okay to not be okay. The truth is, there is nothing weak about going to seek help. The truth is, there is no such thing as a weak man because you have opened up and talked about your emotions. The lies are seeking help is for the weak. Being like a woman is weakness. I believe that talking about feelings is one of the strongest things that anybody can do. So the more we continuously wake up to these truths and destroy the lies, the stigma, I think the more we'll do for men when it comes to mental health.
It is quite obvious that energies bounce between people, as they say that no man is an island, and as I have said that the way that we react or the way that we relate to society influences the way that we dress, the way that we carry ourselves around, and the way we speak, and just our outlook on the world. And we want to find out that now, does an individual have a fighting chance when they're battling mental health, and what does it entail? How does one end up having to bring themselves out of a dark situation? Do people, or do we as individuals have a fighting a chance when it comes to fighting our demons or battling with mental health?
I think that the biggest thing to renew when it comes to mental health is your mind. The greatest thing that we need to renew when it comes to mental health is the mind. Let's help each other come to awareness, to a point where we are able to see the traumas for what they are. There's been a lot of traumas. A lot of us have gone through abuse. A lot of us have gone through a lot of violence, verbally and physically. And if we are able to help each other identify those traumas and how they are affecting the way we do life now, the way we parent, the way we relate to each other in the workplace, everything. If we're able to identify those things, it will be easier to heal from them. So I would say the greatest thing right now is to have as much awareness as possible. And I'm grateful for this podcast, because this is the beginning of awareness. If I can show you that there's a trauma that you haven't dealt with, then it's easier for you to see it, and it's easier for you to take the necessary steps to heal from it. So I am committed to bring as much awareness as possible, to really stop you in your tracks and question the way you're doing life, and ask you whether the way you're doing life is normal or not. And when you acknowledge that, you know what, we've been domesticated to some very toxic way of doing life, it is very easy to start healing from it and start doing life better and become better versions of ourselves as men. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Quite clearly, Tony mentions that stigma against men with mental health issues is prominent in our society since showing your emotions as a man equals to weakness that's in society's eyes. Now, how do we navigate this life? How do we encourage each other as men to be more open about what we are facing, be it being faced with job losses, being broke, or just not being able to give your partner enough satisfaction in whatever way or in whatever aspects of life or whatever responsibilities that you have. And this is what we have talked about today as we tried to get into this journey, this wonderful journey as the Men's Conference, as we talk about these and other issues that affect men on a daily basis. And I want to thank Tony Friday for giving us his time to explain, to articulate, to define some of the things that we might know but not know exactly what is going on in our lives. My name is Emmanuel Nkomo. Thank you for listening to me. It's been a wonderful opportunity to talk to you, and I hope that we'll link up next time. This has been the Men's Conference.
Join us next week on the Men's Conference. For your views, comments, and questions, catch us on the following social media platforms: Facebook, Men's Conference Podcast; on Twitter, @conference_pod; Instagram, Men's Conference Podcast 01; or you can send a WhatsApp to 0719-711-298. The Men's Conference, the ultimate guide to guy wisdom.